Today, we're going to take a look at how to find the slope of a line. The slope of a line is how you get from one point to the other. It's the steepness. Is it super steep or is it less steep? It is the pattern of rise over run. Rise is up and down, run is left to right. We want to figure out how many points you travel up or down over how many points you travel left or right. We also use the letter M for slope. If we want to find the slope of a line graphed, we have to find 2 points on the line. So let's zoom in on problem number 1. And let's see if we can find 2 points. So we can see that it hits this corner right here and this corner right here. We always start with our rise over our run. So I'm going to start on the left and figure out how do I move from this point to this point. So we're going to do rise over run, and we're going to count our spaces. So we can see that we're going to go up 1, and then we're going to go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now if we want to label the slope M, which is rise over run, we're going to go up 1 over 5. So our slope would be 1/5. Let's take a look at a second one. Number 2 now. We're going to start here, and we're going to go down to this point here. So now we're going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and forward 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's go ahead and mark point number 1 and point number 2. And let's count our rise over our run. So rise over run. And we're going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it looks like we went down 6, -6, over. Now we're going to go forward 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is a slope of -6/5. As you look at the difference between 1 and 2, we read from left to right. And so I can see as I'm moving from left to right, this line is going up just a little bit. So his slope is a +1/5. As I read from left to right, I can see that this line is going down. And so that's why it has this negative out in front. Let's try another one that's graphed. Number 3. So again, if I start with the left and move to the right, then I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I'm going to go forward 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I take a look at my slope, 6 over 4, notice that both of those are even numbers. So this slope can actually be reduced. Since they're both even, we can divide both the numerator, the top, and the denominator, the bottom, by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3, over 4 divided by 2 is 2. So this slope actually reduces down to 3 over 2. And you can see that you're going to follow this pattern twice. So if I start here, I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, over 1, 2. Up 1, 2, 3, over 1, 2. So my slope is 3 over 2. All my lines on a slant will either have a positive slope or a negative slope as a fraction, or as a whole number. It might be something like 2 over 1, which reduces down to 2. If I have, notice you've got your vertical and horizontal lines in problems 4 and 5. So if I have a vertical or horizontal line, one of these has a slope of 0, and one of these has a slope that's undefined. Now, if I take a look at my first one here, I've got a vertical line, and so we know that vertical lines have the equation of, we're just going to review, x equals, it passes the x-axis at 3, so this is the equation, x equals 3. So now if I take a look at how do I get from one point to the other, so I'm going to choose 2 points on my line here. I'm going to choose this guy and this guy. I can choose any 2 points on my line. So if I look at my slope, then if I think about this, if I'm going from here to here, I'm going up 1, 2, 3 over 0. So if I go up 3 over 0, well, if you plug this into your calculator, you can see that when you divide by 0, you get an error message. And that is because it's undefined. You can't divide by 0. And an easy way to remember this is, I'm going to put NO. No for a 0 in the denominator. My slope is undefined. So all vertical lines have a slope that's undefined. If you think about it, if I'm moving across left to right and I get to here, okay, I'm going to fall off. Okay? So it's undefined. There is no slope. On the other hand, if we have a horizontal line like number 5, here we have the line y equals 3. Again, if I want to find the slope, I'm going to choose any 2 points on my line. So I'm going to choose this guy and this one right here. Why not? So now I'm going to go up 0 over 1, 2, 3, 4. Or up 0 over 2, or up 0 backwards 1, or backwards 2. So I have a slope of 0 over, let's say, 4, or 2, or whatever number it is. But this one's okay. It's okay to have a 0 on top, and that slope is 0. So if you can remember, no for the 0 on the bottom, and it's okay for the 0 on the top, that's an easy way to remember when it is undefined for vertical lines and the slope is 0 for horizontal lines. Our first examples all gave us a picture of something graphed. But we're not always going to be able to graph our lines or want to. They might just tell us, hey, here are 2 points on your line, find the slope. If we take a look at our bottom examples, it says if you are given 2 points on your line, so if you're given 2 points, x1, y1, and that would be the first point, like in number 6, it's -3, 6, and number 7, 2, 15, number 8 is -2, 4, and you're given a second point, we call this x sub 2, x and y sub 2. Our first one was x sub 1 and y sub 1. That would account for our second point. We can calculate it by using our formula. M is our slope. We take the difference of the y's over the difference of the x's. So it's always y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So it's going to be the difference of the y's. That's going to go in the top of our fraction over the difference of our x's, and that's going to go in the bottom of our fraction. So let's go ahead and see if we can do 6, 7, and 8. So if I'm looking at number 6 now, let's first identify our points here. So I've got my x sub 1, y sub 1. That's my first point. And x sub 2, y sub 2, that's my second point. So we're going to use our slope formula here. And on top, we're going to start with the difference of our y's. So we're going to take y2 minus y1. So we're going to start with the second y, which is 5, minus the first y, which is 6. So y2, which is 5, minus y1, which is 6. So the difference of the y's goes up top. And then on the bottom, we're going to put the difference of the x's. So So then I'm going to take my second x, 4, minus my first x, negative 3. 4 minus a negative 3. So now we can go ahead and do our subtraction up top. And 5 minus 6 is negative 1 over. In the denominator, notice that you have minus minus. Minus minus always becomes plus plus. So 4 plus 3 is going to give me a 7. So this tells me that my slope is negative 1/7. Let's see if we can follow the same pattern for number 7. So I've got my x sub 1, y sub 1, and x sub 2, y sub 2. So we always start with the y's on top, and we take y2 minus y1. So we're going to start with negative 11 minus 15. Then we put the x's on the bottom. So we start with the second x, 4, minus my first x, 2. If we do our subtraction up top, negative 11 minus 15 is going to give me a negative 26 over 4 minus 2 is going to give me a 2. Now we know that 2 goes into negative 26. I would get a negative 13. And so we can write this reduced down as negative 13 over 1. Oops, I wrote 31. So negative 13 over 1. And you could just write it as negative 13. That's perfectly fine. And that means that we would go down 13 over 1, down 13 over 1 to get from one point to the other. Let's try one more to make sure we've got these down. Number 8. So again, I'm going to go ahead and put in my x sub 1, y sub 1. And my x sub 2, y sub 2. M, my slope, is equal to, we start off in the top with the difference of our y's. So we're going to take y2, negative 7, minus my first y, which is 4. Now on the bottom, we're going to start with our x sub 2, negative 2, and we're going to subtract a negative 2. In the numerator, when I take negative 7 minus 4, we get a negative 11. In the denominator, first thing we notice is that there's a minus minus, which becomes plus plus. And negative 2 plus 2 is 0. Well, if we go back up to our example in number 4, we can see that when the 0 is on the bottom, we want no, it's undefined. So that's going to happen here. My slope is undefined. So M is undefined because we have a vertical line. And anytime we have a 0 in the denominator, we have NO, no. Now that we've done our notes, you guys have a chance to practice on the backside on your worksheet. Use the points to help you, and then you can find your slope. So let's go over to the backside of your worksheet real quick. And if we look at number 1 here, we can see that it's worked out for you. So I'm going to go ahead and first clear this out. And you can see that they give us 2 points. So I'm going to say M is equal to, I know it's always a fraction. So if they give me those 2 points, I'm going to start off with my leftmost point. And I'm going to go down 1, 2. So down 2. And then I'm going to go forward 1, 2. Forward 2. Negative 2 over 2 is going to reduce down to negative 1. So you can write it as negative 1, or you can write it as negative 1 over 1. And so you can see that that's our pattern. I'm going to go down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, and I can keep following this pattern over and over again to get to any point on my line.